Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Yara Show. Hopefully you can all hear me well tonight. Tonight I am talking with Debbie of Pinching Pesos of changing business plans. It's a little ironic that she's here tonight because it's actually about 11 months since she was last on the show talking about parting out parts. So, want to say hello to everybody, Deb, before we get started?
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. Yeah, it's been a while. We were talking about parts last year, and here we are talking about them again.
Well, we're only talking about it because you went back to them because since you went on, you went from leaving the parts and plush to go something else, and now you're back to the parts. So where did you get that idea? Why did you leave what was making you money?
Um, I had got this idea. I really don't remember exactly my thought process, but I know at some point I was trying to ramp up my business, and I really thought I was maybe doing the wrong thing. I had started to get bored. And I guess to alleviate that boredom, I thought that I needed to change the products that I was selling. The problem with that is that I ended up losing a lot of money because my parts business was very profitable and it was doing very, very well. And for me to go in and change all of that was a mistake. It was the wrong way to conduct business. It was, instead of moving into and adding something in additional to what I was doing that was working, I instead tried to turn my business into something else. And that was a huge mistake. It was, if it was like, honestly, like if my business was my sole income, if my husband didn't work, or if I was single and eBay was my sole income, it would have put me out of business. That decision that I made in the attempt to ramp up my business would have destroyed my business. I would have had to have gone back to work, essentially, because of the loss of money that came from my poor decision making.
So you would say for somebody that's thinking about changing their business, add to what you're already doing if what you're doing is already positive. That way, if you make a mistake, you're not necessarily losing anything because it's still there. Your backbone is still there.
Exactly. What I ended up doing was, I tore my business down and attempted to reconstruct it, and that was a huge mistake. What I should have done is found something that I enjoyed doing while I continued on with my bread and butter business. But instead, I just took all the bread and butter and I threw it in the trash and decided I wanted, croissants and peanut butter. I just did it all wrong. So, yeah. So what I would say to somebody that, like myself, that got kind of bored, I get bored easily. I need something else, to distract me. And that's something that we'll talk about later too, about my changing my business plan, because I have some really big changes that are coming up, but they are what I would consider focused maneuvering as opposed to reconstruction.
Let's see if there's any questions before we really get into it.
I don't see any questions in the chat at all. I have it right on my side screen, so.
Okay, yeah, I popped it out so that way I can.
I do too. I have it split screened. I got you back, Chris. I got you back.
Well, I know that part of your changing is you're doing a different store for roosters instead of adding a regular store, right?
I created another account and a Facebook page for just for fun. And this is kind of part into what I was talking about. I wanted to have some part of business that was kind of just for fun, that it wasn't about, oh, I'm going to make a ton of money or I'm going to do this. It was just a nice distractor. And so I opened up the Cock Block, which is a store that is going to be only roosters and chickens. So, yeah, I haven't been able to go out and go sourcing for those products. I went out 2 days. So I went to 4 different stores, only found like 2 things. Tanya of Thrifty Treasures was so wonderful and sent me like a little box of rooster stuff. I thought that was really sweet. And so when I get back to sourcing, which I won't be doing until, I don't know, end of July, I'll be able to find more things. And it was really just was like a nice, funny little distractor that, you know, oh, let me see if I can find some roosters, you know, just for fun.
Surprised you can't find them in Texas because you figure farming and go down there.
I found a lot of owls, but not a lot of roosters.
And what are OG says just sells chastity belts?
I couldn't find any of those either.
So what else are your plans for changing the business?
Okay, so I discussed this a little bit week before last when I was on eBay Radio. And it's kind of as a prevention or preventative for ending up with a lot of unlisted backstock, which I still suffer with, even though last year I went through the buying freeze and I listed stuff for 7 weeks. I listed everything that I had backlogged and I was like, I'll never do this again. And then I did it again. So what I learned from my second round of too much crap is that basically what I want to do with my business is be more particular about my items. So while I'm going to continue with my parts business, which we can discuss me getting back into parts, I'm going to change the way I source for my other items. And so I don't know when you want to discuss that, but did you want to, I guess, start talking about why I got back into parts? Or
yeah, we can hit that since you brought it up. And then,
well, because it's kind of like, you know, me going over how I'm changing my business has a whole lot to do with that particular area. I guess that would come first. Then
yeah, well, as I said, it was ironic that it was almost a year to the day that you were on talking about parts, and like you said, here we are talking about it again.
Yeah. So last year when we talked, I think I was at the end of when I was actually doing parts, which I found it strange when we were having that conversation. And I specifically remember last year when you asked me to do the show and I asked you what we were going to talk about, and you were like, oh, we're going to talk about parts. And I was like, I don't really want to talk about parts, because at that point in my business, I was over it. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was bored. I was like, this is, you know, people have all these businesses, right? And they can go out and seek out antiques or vintage items or specialty items. Or I have a guy, Joe Hare, in my $1,500 room that he does jewelry. Like, he buys silver and gold, and it's always interesting when he finds things, and like, it's an interesting business. Parts is not interesting business. And so I got a little jealous of people who had interesting businesses, you know, and I was just over it. I was over parts. And I should have done some more soul searching and really thought about my business. Unfortunately, I have a lot of freedom since my rent is not dependent on my eBay money. I made a decision that just wasn't thought out very well. It was a bad business move, and I let my feelings determine what I was doing with my business as opposed to real hard facts of, you know,
yeah,
there was other ways for me to go about it, and I just did it wrong.
Well, Dwayne has a nice suggestion to help you with your rooster problem. Give people your address and have them send them to you.
Yeah, that would be fine, but I don't think people want to just send me roosters just for fun, for free. But if you want to, you can always send me a message. I'll give you my address.
Kathleen Hopperstead said she's now seeing chicken and roosters everywhere since you mentioned the store.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it is, like when you're pregnant and then all of a sudden every person you see is pregnant. Or like you buy a car and then all of a sudden it's like, it seems like every other person has that car.
Well, Wayne said he'll send you roosters, so.
Yeah, so what ended up happening last year is when I got done with my buying freeze, I didn't really know what I was doing or what I was trying to focus on. I only knew that I wanted to change things, but I didn't know how, like exactly I was going to change my business. I just knew that I didn't like it at that point. So as time has gone on, what I have decided to do now is over the last couple of months, I got right back into parts, and I also got back into plush, and I'm really happy that I added those two things back in. I had to go back and really reevaluate, why did I get away from those items? Plush I got away from due to storage reasons. The reason that I was having storage problems was because I was taking the items, because I buy them by the bag, right? So there'll be 10 or 15 in a bag. And I would find the 1 or 2 in there that was good and worth selling. And then the other 10, instead of getting rid of them, I would take them and go store them for a later date that's never going to come. Mm-hmm. So I had all of these plastic totes that were just full of stuffed animals, and I had bags of stuffed animals. They were never anything that I was going to list. So I got away from plush for the wrong reason. The plush wasn't the problem. The problem was my purging issues. I wasn't getting rid of the ones that I wasn't ever going to list. So I viewed them incorrectly, and I did the exact same thing with parts. Instead of getting, doing my listings and do one machine for parts and then, do other things, instead, I would try to do just a bunch of parts, and then they're kind of boring, and I had just gotten into the wrong frame of mind, and that is kind of the real reason why I wanted to change things, is because I had put all this negativity into it. When you start looking at something, and if you have a job that you don't like, and every day you wake up and you're like, I don't want to go to this job. I hate that job. My manager's a jerk, and the people there are not nice, and the customers stink, and I hate that place. And you do that every single day, you're just going to be miserable, But if you woke up with the exact same job and it's going to be a great day today, and and we're just really positive about it, and you really tried to be positive about it regardless of your environment, you're going to change your mindset about your job. You can do that without your environment changing. You can change the way you view things without the actual things changing. And that's what I needed to do with my business. It wasn't my business that was the problem. It was me and the way that I was looking at it.
You never know. You might find things local, not local, but you see it negatively one way, and then when you start seeing the positive, you might see it like, wait a minute, that can work here, or that can work here, or that can be sold here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the parts now, when I'm doing them, instead of looking at them like, oh, these are stupid and this is boring and nothing special about these, I can't put this on a Pinterest board, that kind of thing. Instead, I look at it like, oh man, doing parts is so easy, and it barely takes any time, and you can put 10 listings up, and it barely takes any time, and you make really good money, and it's so simple, I just kind of look at it in a different way. And it totally changed. It totally helped. Nothing changed about the parts business. The parts business stayed the same. What changed was me and how I looked at it. And now I really kind of enjoy it because it's easy. You know, to me, it's like, oh, well, thank you for that very easy $25 you just gave me for something I spent, you know, the equivalent of 75 cents on. So that's something that I've been working on, not just in my business, but in my life in general, is, you know, changing my mindset and, you know, I'm really trying really hard to not be negative. It is super freaking hard to not be negative.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you really try, Chris, like if you woke up to tomorrow and you're like, I'm not going to be negative, I'm going to try my hardest. Oh, it's hard. You'll catch yourself every time, and it's just like, so, yeah, but that's what I'm working on right now, is changing my mindset about everything in general and just trying to wake up. And that's why I did the eBays and Bacon show that I've been doing the last couple of days. And I didn't get to do it this morning because it wouldn't go live. But I did Thursday and Friday, Monday and Tuesday, and then didn't do it today, and then it'll be on Thursday and Friday. And that show is really just about being motivated and making myself accountable and changing my mindset about things, and that I was going to have a great day and I was capable and I was able and I was this and that, and just really trying to push past all those negative thoughts that you put in your head about, you know, I'm not a good lister, or I'm slow, or I'm unorganized, or I'm unproductive, or I'm really tired and I don't want to get out of bed, you know, and like that kind of thing.
We have a question from Alvin Smith. He wanted to know what parts and plush sell the best.
What parts and plush sell the best? That's not a very simple question to ask. I would say, if you were thinking about brands, Cuisinart's a fairly good brand. They're pretty stable as far as anything across the line. When you're outsourcing, if you just look up the machine and the word part, you can see what the availability is. If there's a machine that you have and you're not seeing parts and you're only seeing the whole machines, totally part it out, because you'll make more money that way. I love parting out like food processors. There are so many parts in a food processor that, I mean, you're just gonna make money. With plush is it's like all over the place, and you really just have to do your research like anything else. Whatever you have in your hand, look up the brand and what it is. It's really not something that I can give you a blanket answer about, because they just all vary so much. And with plush is one of those items that can be priced so differently for the same thing, depending on what the seller is doing. If the seller is somebody that's just selling junk like from their garage and they're a personal person, you know, individuals normally see plush as very, like, it has no value. So they might price it $3. There's a lady on eBay that is called the $6 plush lady. She sells every piece of plush for $6. You know, the plush thing is just, it really just depends on the seller, because there's sellers that see plush as collectible and they sell it as a collectible item, or they sell it as rare, and so they price it up and they'll wait it out, you know, and it really just depends on your keywords and things. So I can't answer you about the best plush to pick up. It really just ranges.
Well, I haven't listed too many plush lately, but we had one up, Tweety Bird Painter. I think it's had for like 6 months before it sold, but I had it for like $20.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to put it too low, and I didn't want to put it stratified high because I couldn't find anything else. So I think, okay, $20 sounds about fair to most people, and it sold. So
you price things however you see fit. I mean, I price my stuff always on the higher end. I need to do my follow-up video about the plush that I sent off to Amazon because I don't have that many things left in general out of that stuff. It's sold through pretty well.
there's a lot of people that were saying they'll send you some roosters, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
So what else would you think would be a good way to change business plans if you needed to? Because some people, like you said, you get tired of something. We established that you should keep that, at least the bread and butter, going while you're trying to change. And then if eventually that makes more money, you can drop off the other thing, or you can keep them together. And
well, what I decided worked best for me is that I needed to evaluate in detail of like what it was exactly that I had a problem with. You know, it's very easily to generalize a complaint and say, I don't like it. I just don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like doing it. I don't want to do it, or whatever. But if you get real specific about, okay, well, what was it about this? What do I need to change about this? With me, what I needed to change was I needed to get very aware of what I'm capable of doing, okay? And the actions that I had been taking that were not working, right? And so what I decided is that instead of me continuing to think like, I'm not good at listing, I'm not real productive, because what I think I list very slowly. You know, there's some people that they can just rock it out. I don't. I spend quite a bit of time listing things, and you know, some days I can list 5 or 10, and then the other days I can do, 20 or 30. It really just depends on what type of stuff I'm listing. But sometimes it just takes me forever to list like 5 things. So instead of me sitting there continuing to say like, oh, I'm a slow lister, giving me a backlog of stuff, the problem is not necessarily that I'm slow. The problem is that I'm buying more things than I can process. So what I had to do was establish the reason that there was a problem, which was I'm buying more things than I can process. So then I needed to evaluate, okay, well, how much can I really process? That's what I've been trying to work on in the past week of, okay, how much can I really list? So that way I know whenever I do implement my new business model, which we haven't talked about yet, but when I do implement my new business model, I'll know how many things I can buy on a reasonable regular day without continuing to build up a backlog. That makes sense.
Yep. Well, since you just hit on it, why don't you talk a little bit about what your renewed business plan is going to be?
So here's the plan. All right. And I'm excited about it. I think it's going to work great. I'm going to continue doing parts as a parts and plush, as a bread and butter type business. I have decided to, and I've discussed this multiple times, so I'm sorry I'm regurgitating information, but it's, just what it is. So I've decided to, limit the amount of time that I'm spending in the stores. When I started looking at my habits as a business, what I was doing is I was going into the stores and I was spending entirely too much time there. Hours in one store. And we've got 50 thrift stores here. I don't need to spend 3 hours in one store, And I started looking at it more in depth and going, okay, I'm really picking up the best products of the day within that first 20 or 30 minutes. After that point, all I'm really doing is what I call pecking for profits, where it's like, oh, what's this? Oh, I could sell that. Yeah, all right. How much is it? Okay, I can make $10 on that. And oh, yeah, okay, I can make $10 on this. And really just kind of pecking around and filling up my cart with, yes, things that make money, but I'm very lucky that I have a ton of places for me to go shopping at. So I don't need to stay in one store and peck around and try to make as much money out of that one store on, 100 different things that I bought. What I've decided to do is put a limit on the amount of time that I'm in a store. So I'm going to limit my time to about 20 or 30 minutes, 30 minutes tops. By that time, I should have everything that is really worth picking up. Good high dollar, nice, sell price items. And then I want to spend an additional 10 to 15 minutes in that store going through the media, because that's really what I send to Amazon is media. My Amazon is mostly media. So then that way I'm able to refresh my Amazon, because I barely have anything there anymore. So that's what I'm going to do. And then if I don't find enough items in the first store, then I can move along to another store, see if they have anything that's really worth me picking up. I do not need to bring home any more than 10 items. 10 is kind of my limit. I can't process any more than that. So I don't need to pick up any more than 10 items. Once I get those 5 or 10, think about 5 or 10 items that are worth, 40, 50, $100, which it's not hard for me to find those things. It's not a difficult process. If I go out shopping and I focus, I'm going to find those things. So I'm not worried about that. And then just doing my bread and butter business, as well. So that way I've got that coming in, and then I'm processing on a continual basis the good items that I just picked up. And that should alleviate any type of possibility of a huge backlog of hundreds of items that didn't get listed because I didn't really care about them once I got home because they're only worth $15 anyway, and I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's part of what the crazy was asked the question. You talked about improving your product time. Are you planning to set a minimum, or what?
Yes. So I am planning on setting, a minimum price range of, something reasonable. And it really just depends on the day. It might be as low as $30. There's shoes that I buy that I sell for $30 or $40. But I know that they're consistent sellers. So that's not a problem. What is going to be, I know already, an issue for me is making myself stop. But I am really going to have to work on it, on putting a limit on how much I bring home, because I'm not, I don't think I'm making as much money as I should be. And I'm putting a lot of effort into too many items. So it's like yesterday. Yesterday I cherry picked off my shelves because I said that's what I was going to be doing this week, right? I was going to be shopping my own store. Which is my shelves here. And I cherry picked off those shelves. I listed 6 different items. There were 25 that were the same thing. It's a variation listing for this duct tape. And then there were 6 items that were just individual items. Yesterday, I listed in those 6 items almost $700 in items.
Wow.
But it's 6 things, right? But it's $700.
So that's got a little over $100 a pop.
Right. So that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to focus on. If I bring home one $100 item and 4 $30 items, that's a great freaking day. And I can process those by the end of the evening and go out and do it again tomorrow. Because the shopping part is the fun part. Everybody wants to go shopping. I want to go shopping. So I'm just going to focus on getting the treasures, getting them listed, making the money, not working as hard as I have been. And I foresee increasing my sales quite a bit. That's my plan.
Well, Coco made a comment saying she needs a, and a couple of them agreed, they need a sourcing diet plan.
It's really more about portion control. That's what I'm working on. Sorry, I was trying to read the chat.
Yeah, Mr. Sadie said he can't do $10 limit items anymore. His limit is $20 to $30 sold minimum.
Yeah, because you're gonna end up spending all of your time processing stuff, and instead of doing what you really like to do, which is shopping for stuff. But if you limit what you're shopping for to a certain type, a certain price margin, then you're not really stuck in all of this. Oh, I've got 50 things I need to list before I can go shopping again, which what you're going to do is you're just going to list the best stuff and dump the rest of it in some totes and then get back to it in a year whenever you decide you're going on a buying freeze.
They're fighting over Dawn because she says she likes to list. She doesn't like to shop. So now they're all wanting to hire her to do their stuff.
Yep. I always said if I could find 2 people to list for me and I could just go shopping every day, I said it the other day, I can make $250,000. I know that. Just thrifting items.
Yeah. I haven't gone out for a long time to get stuff, but like I always say, I have enough here. It's just that we have to get the mindset of listing while we're dealing with whatever she has to deal with medically that day.
Right.
So sometimes those days I'll get 1 or 2 things up, not like, hey, I actually did something today. And those days I'm sitting there like, people know I'm always on Facebook doing the ads and stuff. I still see that as me doing work, maybe not get paid for it, but it's still work to me.
It's volunteer work.
Yeah, well, it helps other people learn. It's just like kind of like this. I'm volunteering my time to bring people on like you to help people learn. So it's
So I'm excited. I'm excited to get because the last couple times I went shopping over the last couple months, I brought home things to part out, and it was good. It was good to do it, like, because it was really natural for me. Like, it's the parts business is good business. What is Chad talking about? People are saying Austin is slim pickings because of the competition. People are obviously uneducated in what they need to be purchasing, because I don't see slim pickings any freaking where.
And a Purple Lily wanted to know, how did you find Patrick?
Patrick was a friend of my friend that I had in high school. I actually met him when I was 16, but we weren't friends. We went to a club one time, and then I didn't talk to him for 20 years. And then I happened to reconnect with him on Facebook. Well, I guess not 20 years, like 12 years. I reconnected with him on Facebook a couple years ago, and then at random, I was asking him if he still lived in the same house he lived in, and I was like, oh, I'm right, like, in your neighborhood. And then I got into talking about he was talking about needing a job, and I was talking about needing an eBay helper, and we were just going to see if it worked out, and it did. So that's how I found Patrick.
Mr. Sadie has a question. Do you think listing on the high side will help to build your inventory? I do, at least until I get so many listed, then they start to sell.
Do you think listing on the high side will help to build your inventory? I don't understand the question.
I think do you think it's higher end, like your higher end items? If you list more higher end, they eventually sell after you get a certain limit.
Mr. Sadie, can you reword your question? Because I'm not getting it for some reason.
Chad said just to say you have inventory. Like you're building up your store inventory just to say you have it. Like some people might just list whatever they have in their house because, or whatever they brought in because they want to list it.
Oh, like to have like a big store for no reason?
Yeah, and hoping that the higher end will start going because, like, as they say, the more you list, the more you're supposed to sell.
No, I don't. It's not the more you list, the more you sell. It's in technically, for some reason people misunderstand the more you list as being, oh, I need 2,000 items in my store. It's the more activity you have. So I would rather have a store that has 200 items and sells through 60-70% of them every month than to have a store with 5,000 items that sells through 5 or 10% every month, which is generally a higher store's sell-through rate, is 5 or 10%. Because I'm only one person, I can only work so hard. So to me, if I have 1,500 items in my store, I have like 1,200 too many. Because to be able to maintain that amount of items in a store, I would have to work really hard at buying things and listing things and shipping things because I would be selling things. The only way that you're not going to be working that hard is if you're not selling all those things that are in your store and you're only going through 5% of them. Then you just got too much junk in your store, is the way I see it. Like, it's just, I don't know. I would rather have a store that's smaller with a higher sell-through rate than a bigger store just for the sake of having a big store.
Well, Idaho Falls Picker says, doesn't it depend on what you're selling?
Yeah, it really does. It can be really easy for me to build up an inventory when I'm doing smalls, like I did last year. I listed all those smalls, and then I did it this year, and then I have a 400 item store, and 75% of it is smalls. I hate it. That's not the store I want. You know, I don't want a store that 75% of my store is worth less than $18. Hey, Walgreens, what are you talking about? You know, so I'm really more focused on keeping my bread and butter business and then, you know, having my higher end items. And higher end items, I'm just talking about $30 and up. I just don't want smalls. And I don't consider parts smalls because it's one unit. And so when you're thinking about one unit and you're like, all of these pieces equal $200, and it doesn't take you any much time longer, you know, to list all of those parts out of one machine as it does to list like one or two things, you know, so it's really not that much of a trade-off. I don't consider the parts, you know, quote unquote smalls because it's just one main unit and then it's worth, you know, $125 as a whole.
Yeah, well, right now I can say we're still at the small stage because like we have a couple of higher end things, but like the 18 to 20 hour, over 20-hour items, but a lot of my stuff are in between the $10 and $5, or even some a little less because like when I got the patterns, I got them for $6. I sold one for 20-something dollars. That paid for that lot. So when I list them just for like $4 with plus $4 shipping. Anyway, I get rid of them, figuring everything else is profit on top of that.
Right, and that's a business model on its own. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you can't just have things that are priced high, and that, I mean, yeah, I know a lot of people can say like, oh, I tried that with my business, it just didn't work. So that's why I'm totally fine with doing the parts and plush as bread and butter. You need a bread and butter business, you do. But to curb all the rest of it, then I'm putting a limit. Because it's just about me evaluating the way that I work. And this is me. deciding that this is probably the best option for me. And I think every seller needs to go through and really dig deep into what is stopping them from succeeding. It's not about I'm lazy or I'm slow at listing or I'm not good at this or it's not about that. There's something deeper within your processes that is causing you to feel a certain way about your business or the way that you do things or the results of the things that are going on. And so unlike me where I'm like, oh, I'm a slow lister. No, that's not the problem. That's not what's causing this backlog. What's causing the backlog is I'm buying too much stuff. I'm not going to get any faster at listing. So as a result of that conclusion, that I'm not going to get any faster at listing, then I have to find a solution another way, in setting a limit on how much I'm bringing home because I know how much I can process. Don't bring home more than I can process. It's the same way, don't, I don't know. It's just find what the real problem is, because it's not the surface problems that you're seeing. It's not what I keep seeing people say on Facebook pages. When it comes to business, the problem is a little deeper, and you just got to figure out what it is so that you can find the way around it and find your solution to the problem.
Okay, before I get to Mr. Sadie's comment, Idaho wanted to know what is the lowest profit sale you would want on one item?
In the future or now?
You could do it both, really, because you figure that.
I mean, right now, I'm okay with any profit at the moment. So, like, I just did my sales update video, and May, I had items on there that I was profiting $6, $8, $10 on, because those were the things that I had listed when I was still doing that kind of business. I wouldn't say today that I would go to the store and buy that item. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, I have the option of spending my time listing this, or I have an option of spending my time listing this. I want to list these little things. Why? If I have a choice, then why? It's different if I don't have a choice. It's different if I don't have sourcing around me and I can't find anything. That's different. I don't have that problem. So it's just about finding them, not about having a limit on my, there's a lot of people, they can't go out and find things. So they have to have a small business. It's just, they just have no other choice. I have a choice. And so I'm making it. What's your average profit per sale? Right now, it's way too freaking low. It is so low right now. I think it's $19. When I was running strictly a parts business back like April 2014, my average sell price was $30. Now my average sell price is $19. It doesn't seem significant, like, oh, it's only $11. It's a huge difference when it really comes down to it. If going from $30 to $19. I would like to get back up to the $30 area and up. If your average sell price on an item is $30 and you sell 100 things, then that's $3,000. But it's not going to work at $19 and you sell 100 things. That's a loss of $1,100. That's a huge difference. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited because I know it's going to work. So I'm excited.
I think I might have to either think about doing something like that or trying to work something with the wife to figure it out, or just stick with what I'm doing until I can get rid of the stuff that's in the house. Like I said, we have so much stuff in here already. I want to get rid of it before I try going out and getting more stuff, even though I want to go out because it's the right time of year to go.
Sorry, my husband was talking to me.
It's okay. Coco says she's always aiming for $100-$200 plus profit per item.
I would love that, but that's not practical. Like, I would love that, but it's not practical for me. But yeah, Coco says I sell about 50 or 60 items a month, and I have 8,000 give or take in sales per month. That's a really great. I know several other resellers that are like that they sell 50 items a month. They only have 100 items in their store and they make $6,000, you know, because they're very focused about what they are buying, and they leave behind the little shit and they go look for the other stuff, and they just focus in on those things, and they don't come home with a bunch of crap.
And Dwayne says his is about $24 right now, but always increasing for the profit margin.
Did you have any other questions for me?
I don't have any more off the top of my head. So I'm just looking at these right now. We got about 14 minutes left before the hour is up. So if you have any more questions for Deb, please post them. Yeah, she's already.
Yeah, so I'm like, for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be kind of off the radar because my kids are going to be here for 3 weeks. I haven't decided if I'm going to continue eBays and Bacon or not. I was thinking about trying to, just because I still need to work. So I should continue to do that just so I can wake up and, you know, get going for the day and then spend a couple hours working before they kind of wake up and get going. So I haven't decided yet. I guess we'll know Wednesday if I'm going to continue to do that or not. Idaho Falls asks, how long have I been reselling? I started my eBay store, like, as a business, November of 2011. I've sold things off and on for a while, but my actual, when I decided that I'm going to sell stuff on eBay, it was November of 2011. Prior to that, I had started in 2008, 7, selling coupons on eBay. That's where the Pinching Pesos name came from. If you look up Pinching Pesos on Google, you might find a blog on there back from, 8 years ago, about like couponing and things like that, because that's what I was doing, because I was a stay-at-home mom and I didn't have any money, and I started selling coupons on eBay to kind of just make some extra cash because I could get them for free, and I would make $50-$60 a week, and that was badass, you know, because all I had on my hand was time. You know, I had all the time in the world so I didn't mind sitting there clipping coupons and putting them on eBay and making, you know, a couple bucks, because a couple bucks was great, because I didn't have no bucks, you know. So and I remember when I started selling, it was funny because my philosophy back then was, as long as I can make 3 times my money, I'm happy. You know, if I paid, you know, if I bought something and for $1 and I can sell it for $10, I mean, that's amazing. You know, like, I made $4, you know, I didn't even do nothing. You know, I had this whole different mindset, you know, it was great. You know, as long as I can make any money at all, it was just the best thing in the world. And then it's just funny how things change, and you're just like, no, I want $50, you know. If I can't get $50, then no, I mess with it. You know, it's like.
Has your husband ever thought about joining you in reselling and not doing his business?
No, it's not his thing. It's not for everybody. So I think it's really funny when people talk about Oh, I would like to get an employee, but I don't want to train them. Like, you're essentially just training them to run off and start their own business. Not everybody wants to be a business owner. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Some people just want to work. It's just like Patrick. Patrick has no interest whatsoever of like one day running his own eBay business or whatever. He just wants to get paid by the hour and go home, and not worry about any of this junk.
Well, I see you've got Craigslist hunters in the chat tonight. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the big names are coming to watch you. See? Oh, you pick a big time.
I'm so excited.
Okay. And Coco wants to know that everybody knows she's not bragging about her money.
It's not bragging to talk realistic numbers about what you sell and what you do. It's not bragging. It's just business. It's a nice way to leverage, where you are and,
What do you think is another tip that, I say tip, but that would help somebody think about changing their business so they don't make the mistake that you made when you said, okay, I'm done with this altogether? You don't want to see anybody fail.
No. And like I said, it would have destroyed my business. I would have had to find a job. I would say to not be emotional about it is the best thing you can do. Business is business. It's not emotional. That's what people get too emotional when they get messages from customers. They take it personal and get emotional about it. So whenever you're really thinking about what you want to do with your business or where you want to take it or where you want to go with it, try to take the emotion out of it and really look at the numbers and really look at the real information. What's there. If I would have sat there and looked at the numbers, I would have been able to see that I couldn't afford to take parts out of my business. How was I going to replace it? What did I didn't even test another product line. I didn't even figure out what I was going to do. I didn't even check to make sure there was availability. I just decided I wasn't going to do this anymore. And that's it. But I didn't let me start trying to sell women's pants or something before I get out of the parts business. So that way I make sure I have some money. I just emotionally made a decision. I'm bored. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to revamp everything. That's a disaster.
Okay, so are you going after a quick flip or are you a long tail when you're doing your parts? And
I do both. I run sales quite a bit. I always take, I'll take a good best offer. It really just depends at the moment. I always price things on the high end of the scale, so I wouldn't say that I'm a off the front quick flipper. But if somebody came along and made me a decent offer, I would take their offer. I'm not going to sit around and, maybe I can make more on it later. Unless I just know for a fact. Like I had some Birkenstocks recently that I knew their going rate was $50. Like I knew that's what they were going for. And I had them priced for $59, and I kept getting offers of $25 and $30. And I just kept counter offering at $50, and everybody kept denying the counter offer or saying that was out of their budget. But I knew the market value was $50. And based off of other information, like that there weren't any other ones available in that size and those kind of things, I wasn't willing to let them go. I could have. I paid $7.99 for them, got an offer for $30 plus shipping. That's still profit. That would have been a quick flip. I got the offer that night. Then I got another offer the next day and another offer the day after that from other people. But I kind of just stuck to my guns, and I was just like, no, I know they're worth $50, and even though I could have flipped them that night. I got an offer yesterday for $50, and I was like, you can have them. And they were only listed a week. They asked, why didn't you price them $49.98? Because I didn't want to price them $49.99. I priced them $59.99 or best offer. They were buy it now at $59 or best offer. So then they can offer me what they wanted. If somebody would have offered me $40, I might have taken that.
Yeah, you figure if you go a little, at least $10 higher than what they're normally going for, you're still get
Right.
what they're going for. You get your money. What you really want is the 50.
Yeah.
Well, you prefer the 50 anyway.
I preferred 50. They could have still sold for 60. They were the only ones in that size and that style. So, but I knew that the other ones that were in that style but different sizes had sold in the last, not that long for $50. So I knew that was the going rate on them. But if somebody would have offered me 40, I might have taken it if I didn't have any sales that day. Sometimes you just like to generate some flow. You're like, come on, just go. I've taken some really oddball, best offers just because I was like, oh, today's slow. Just, yes, whatever you offer me, I'm taking it, and.
The crazy guy says you're a whiz at market analysis.
No, I'm not. I'm so not. I just try to pay attention, and just, it's just kind of like you pick up experience the longer you're a reseller that okay, based off of this information that, these are the sales and this is what's available and this is, how many were listed before and how many sold, then I know, I know how to kind of price this out, or, is it going to be here for a really long time? Some things are just going to be there for a long time no matter what. It doesn't matter what you priced it at. You could price it at $100. You could price it at $10. It's going to be sitting there for a long time no matter what, and it's going to sell for the price that you price it at. So if you had it priced at $100, it would have sold for $100. If you had it priced at $10, it's going to sell for $10. Some things are just going to be long tail no matter what.
Well, we got about 3 minutes left. So, did any more last minute questions? Please get them in time. Don't have any. Hey, Deb, you have one for me since it's been almost a whole year since you've been on. We don't really hang out in hangouts too often. By my own choice. Not because of you, but because
It's because he doesn't like me.
No, it's because if I sit in a hangout, I want to talk. I don't necessarily want to work. Where everybody else wants to work in a hangout.
Yeah, I post working hangouts. We're normally working and not talking to each other. We're just sitting there, and it's really funny because somebody that's not used to that, and they'll come in and they're like, oh, here, look at this. And it's like, and they're like, did you see it? And I'm like, I didn't even
even hear you
looking at the screen.
That's right. The last time I did come in one of your hangouts, you weren't even in the hangout. You were away from the computer. Everybody else was muted. I'm like, hey, I guess I'll start lurking. And then you came in and said, hey,
we sometimes we don't talk to each other. Sometimes they're just working and just working. I was wondering what Deb was up to lately. I post video. I have a show I do every week, and I've been doing a show every morning for I have been around. I have been around. I haven't been hiding. That is not a blow dryer behind you you'll catch your hair on fire. I know. I burnt my neck with it one time. I was heat shrinking something and stuck the damn thing to my neck. Oh, it was awful. So somebody had commented that my hair was really long. My hair is really long. I had posted over, my daughter got her haircut, and she cut it I don't know, here. And it looks really cute. And I was like, oh, I would like to do that, with my with my hair because it's kind of, I can't do anything with it or anything. So Joe, Joe, I can never pronounce his last name. Huh?
Joe P.
Yeah, Joe P. Was like, oh, you should totally cut it. And I'm like, I'd be cutting off a lot of hair, because normally you'll see me, I have a bun, and because my hair's gotten too long, I can't really do anything with it. And he's like, no, you should totally cut it off. It'll be cute. So I measured it, and I was like, Joe, if I cut off my hair at the length that my daughter, see, it would be 16 inches that I would cut off if I cut it right here, like right there. So maybe I could sell it. Somebody could make a weave out of it. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? I see myself living in a really small town, having to drive into Austin to source anything, or San Antonio, because I'll be directly in the middle, living on a piece of property. And reselling wise, I'll probably end up having a store there, just because they don't have one in that town. So I would probably end up opening up a store, and maybe some kind of consignment business, just because it's a small old town. So there's got to be some great stuff that people have in their sheds, and their old barns and all that stuff. So I don't know. I think that's where I see myself. Or maybe, I don't know.
Vaughn says dead rocket first.
Do what?
Your hair instead of cutting it.
She said no.
Yeah, then she said red rocket.
Oh no, my husband would leave me. He would totally leave me. That's an old high school excuse, that burn on your neck. It was like, you could tell it was like flat, and it hurt. All right, I don't see any more questions in the chat, and we talked about my hair, so I think we ran out of things to talk about.
Yeah, and it's actually on the hours, past the hour, so we made it. You were worried about me having the questions for you.
So thanks everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. If you ever have any questions, you can always make sure to join up the Reseller Stew Facebook group, so you can check out the Stew Show. Comes on every Tuesday at noon. I went ahead and turned the Pinching Pesos page that I had that used to be for customers. I went ahead and just turned it into an information center. So like, I posted today's link over there, and I post some other things, like the habit changing challenge I was doing for the past several days. That was part of eBay's and Bacon, and other things like that. So,
well, thanks, Jen, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we gotta wait. We won't possibly another 11 months to have you on again, will I?
No, you can follow up with me in a couple months and see how my business change is going. Like, I foresee, give me August, September, check back up with me in October about it and see how it's going.
Well, there you go.
I think 3 months is good. Yeah, because that'll give me August to shop. Oh, maybe November, because then that'll give me August to shop, and then September to really have it like implemented and have good numbers to show about, was it a mistake or is it really working? Am I able to find as much stuff as I think I can? That kind of stuff.
Are you want to start for an after show? Because I know you probably going to do a hangout anyway.
You can open an after show. That's fine.
I'll post it in the chat here, and then I'll put it in the Reseller Society. Sunday's night is not going to be, just so everybody knows, will not be another My Life. I don't have a new guest yet, but we are going to start something new. It's still going to be Sunday Night Live. I just haven't figured out what the next edition type of thing is going to be instead of Picker Boys, because there will be 3 of us on the show, not just 2 of us that week, starting that week. So I don't want to. Well, I don't want to say. I would say it's 2 guys and a girl, but I don't have a title for the other part. I have part of the title, But
Who's the girl? Or you're not gonna tell us?
I'll tell you after.
Oh, okay.
Thanks everybody for watching. Hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, well, why haven't you? And talk to you later.
Bye.